Hi everyone, it's Michelle, Letters from Nantucket. Hope you're doing well today, wherever in the world you might be. I am pleased to share with you the first sort of creative installment of my Traveler's Scrap Journal series for my most recent trip to Denmark and an afternoon in Sweden. Hopefully you saw the first video in which I was flipping through two of the blank journals. I created two, one for myself and one for my friend. So the one that you see in the screen now is the one that I kept for myself. After doing a quick flip through, I'm sort of showing you my stash of ephemera. The 4x4 square photos and these fantastic sticker sheets are all done through Print Studio. They have a killer app that you can connect right to your phone, and you can order all sorts of print sizes and sticker sheets that I enjoy doing because it creates less time for me having to print out photos on my zip printer, which I love. No shade to the zip printer. That little device is amazing. But when I have a big project like this in front of me, outsourcing the printing really does save me a ton of time. And also, printer sheets are not inexpensive things. So when it comes down to cost saving, I really don't think that matters when we're talking about 50, 60 photos and probably 4 hours of my time. So in addition to the pictures, you're seeing other bits of travel ephemera, ticket stubs, graphics that I cut out from brochures that I picked up along the way. When we get into the book, you'll see a couple of lapel tabs that came with museum entrance. You might have also seen some receipts for meals that I had. I pulled a napkin from a branded napkin from a tea room that we went to a couple of times while we were in Sweden for the afternoon. And then the stack of cards and washi, these are all things that I pre-sorted before the trip. For myself and my friend, I sort of had a stack of journaling cards, quote cards, and things like that, as well as stickers, ephemera bits, washi sample, tags, all again done before the trip that sort of worked with the style of the book as I was making it, so that when I got to this part of assembling and documenting and sort of putting the trip together, it would be as easy as possible. So my trip was originally supposed to start on a Wednesday, and I was going to fly directly from Nantucket up to Boston, and then from Boston over to Amsterdam, and then from Amsterdam over to Copenhagen. And what happened the day that I was supposed to fly out to head over to Europe is that it was a very, very, very foggy day on Nantucket, as well as the Cape and the islands. It didn't start out that way in the morning, but by the time I was leaving work and going to the airport, the clouds, started to roll in. So I ended up having to postpone my flight over to Europe by about 20 hours, and I went up to Boston. Thank you so much to older sisters who are always willing to help. So I ended up taking a boat over to Cape Cod, and then my sister came and got me, and I spent the night with her up in Boston, and then I had a nice morning and sort of early afternoon in the city, and I headed to the airport around 2:30. My flight left at 4 p.m. the day after it was supposed to. So the beauty of that, though, is that I had about 6 hours to myself in Boston on a beautiful spring day in the end of April. So, luckily I'm the kind of girl where the glass is always half full. I was able to make the most of that and enjoy the city. Boston's a great city. And I ended up trying out a new bakery, which is where I did that sketch that you see on the page. I believe it's called Tate. Yep. And it was on Charles Street. And I went and I had a really delicious yogurt parfait, which is on the top left of that little square photo, and a good cappuccino, a little small cappuccino, which is on the right. I sat and I sketched, and I enjoyed sort of the morning on Charles Street, the great brick city of Boston. After that, I went and got a mani-pedi because I had some time to kill, which is always something nice to do when off of Nantucket. Then I went for a walk through Boston Commons. I ended up grabbing lunch at the Flower on Clarendon. Flower is a place that my sister introduced me to a long time ago, and it is by far one of my most favorite stops in Boston. They do this delicious like raspberry seltzer, and they make the raspberry all from scratch and seltzer water all from scratch. Great salads, good selection of vegan and gluten-free baked goods. So that was sort of fun. And then by the time I got back to her sweet little apartment, and you can see the door to her building on the bottom left, I had about an hour to spare before it was time to go to the airport. So I just sort of freshened myself up, repacked my bag, and started my trip again. So away I went. It was particularly wonderful once I got on the plane, because the woman I sat next to was French, which is what I'm writing about on this journaling card. And I actually went to university I lived in Paris for about 3.5 years. So it was fun to sit next to her and parler en français, and we spoke a lot about politics, because this was right when the French elections were, I think, 2 weeks away. It's also an interesting political climate in America right now, so we definitely had an enjoyable flight over. And the great thing is that we were in the middle of the plane, and it was 4 seats, but we were the only 2 sitting in that aisle, so we had plenty of room. And I'm 5'11", and I fly coach because that's my life. I mean, I feel blessed to fly, period. So coach is not at all a bad thing, but it does mean that I get to feel like I'm stuffed in a little can for a while in really fun positions. So having a little bit of room to sort of spread out and cross my legs and breathe was nice with pleasant company. I'm trying to get back to this flight, because at this point you have to remember I've been essentially in transit for 24 hours. I had a really quick connection in Amsterdam, which was quite funny, because by the time I arrived in Amsterdam, it's like 12:30 a.m. my time back on the East Coast in the United States. So I'm a bit of a zombie. And I still have one leg to go before I get to my final destination of Copenhagen. So all I can say is that the great thing about travel is you kind of get into a zone. And so I was happy to be in that zone in transit. And by the time that I arrived in Copenhagen, it was a raining morning, and it was about 12:15, but I didn't even care. I was just so happy to be somewhere, to not have to worry about carrying bags with me all that much anymore, and to finally get to the Kong Arthur Hotel, which is where we were staying, meet up with my friend who I was, had been there. She arrived the afternoon before, which is when I was supposed to get there. Anyway, so it was quite a trip. It was totally quite a trip. And then as soon as we got into Copenhagen, I sort of like settled, met her at the hotel. We ended up getting on a train to go up to Helsingør, to then catch a boat to go over to Sweden. So in literally one day I went from like Boston, transit stop in Amsterdam, landed in Copenhagen, got to my hotel, hopped on a train to take a boat to end up in Sweden. So it was a really great, busy day. But now that I'm looking back on it, it's like so funny. And to think that all of this started with me being fogged in on Nantucket. So I think that's a perfect roundout to end the first couple pages that you just saw of me sort of putting in and documenting my unexpected stay in Boston and all that followed. But I guess that's sort of the beauty, though, of being flexible and always trying to make the best of wherever you go, right? But finally getting into Copenhagen, like I said, we went right over to Sweden. It was amazing. I love to travel by train. I wish there was more of a train travel culture in the United States. And if there are any investors out there who want to create a booming travel by train industry in the United States, please contact me. I would love to be part of that. It would be such a passion project if I had the means to invest and sort of create infrastructure to support a train travel culture in the U.S. and sort of bring it back. I remember when I was a kid, my grandfather spent some time in Arkansas when he was young, and he got there by train. And I've had a few interesting conversations, sort of listening to him talking about, what that journey was like for him as a young man leaving Nantucket. It wasn't an easy boat ride to cross the 30 miles to get over to Cape Cod at that time. It was a little bit longer, and then to travel, from the Northeast down to the South. It makes me sort of get lost in daydreams a little bit, sort of thinking of what that would have been like, because I've had really wonderful moments in my life sitting on a train, enjoying scenes of Europe close by. I would love to have that experience in my country, but man, did I just digress. So why did we go north to Helsingør? Well, Helsingør is where the castle is that they say inspired William Shakespeare to write Hamlet. So I wanted to see that and take it in. And it's also where one catches a 20-minute boat to cross I believe it's the North Sea, and head over to Sweden. So because my friend Jess, who I was traveling, and I had never been to Denmark and never been to Sweden, we sort of wanted to spend some time over there and sort of experience both of these great Northern Europe countries. And it seemed like, we were, throughout the whole travel shenanigans of rearranging my flight to make sure I get over there and had a great time with her, we made the decision via text message to just cram everything into that first day of Friday, in hopes that would help me beat some jet lag. I was afraid that if I stopped and sort of took it easy once I got there, that I would fall asleep, sleep for 7 hours, wake up at 10 o'clock, and then the rest of my trip I would be in this really funky sleep schedule. Oh, there's the sticker of the Hamlet Castle right there for you. So I thought it was best to just sort of hit the ground running, get on that train, and sort of fill the first day with this first excursion, which ended up being the best decision ever. This was such a great day. Crossing over on the boat was just really beautiful. And, we know each other from being Jess summers on Nantucket. She and her family have been coming to the island for a while, so we've known each other since we were teenagers. But also being from Nantucket, we sort of come up with like a boat maritime culture. So being in Denmark and being on a ferry boat, it just all felt very homey and comforting. And I was only on a boat like 23 hours earlier, starting my journey when the travel by air plan did not work out. And then once we got over to Helsingør, we just had the best time. So that sheet on the right that you see is actually a bakery bag. We ended up going to, I believe it's called Ballman's, which was this great little tea salon bakery. Helsingør over in Sweden, through their visitor center, has this really great program where you can actually be paired with a local guide. So it was his suggestion, and this was sort of a meeting place for us to meet up with him. And it is a beautiful, wonderful tea salon that we later learned from our guide is the oldest in the town. So that was really special. And then after sort of having a bite and a drink to sort of, well, I needed it to sustain myself, and I think Jess was also just sort of waking up and starting the day. We were ready to charge forward. There's this sort of great castle-like fortress structure in the middle of Helsingør that we climbed up, and then we ended up taking about a 1.5 kilometer walk to an outdoor museum and farm, which was quite lovely. So they actually have like an old Swedish village that they recreated in the same style, using the same materials and methods that were done 300-400 years ago. And also on that property were a lot of animals. So I got to see some horses, some pigs, goats, baby lambs, in the fresh air, and just walking around. Again, end of April, so it's just right at the burst of spring, was divine. I can't I can't express how fortunate I felt to have had this experience and see these places. Helsingør is just a beautiful town. We had a fantastic time. Our local guide Jan ended up taking us to a beautiful church and walking us through some of the history there, and we ended up having a really great conversation and connection with him and his wife and his family. So it was all, there were a lot of really fun connections down to our local guide's spouse happens to be from outside of Boston, and we flew over together that morning on the same flight from Boston to Amsterdam and then Amsterdam to Copenhagen. So there's a lot of fun little synchronicities like that that made the start of the trip very memorable, very friendly, and very fun. So if you're ever in Helsingør, do take advantage of their program to pair you with a local guide and enjoy how beautiful it is to be in a great small city on the coast of Sweden. I really hope to go back someday and explore a little bit more. After we sort of wrapped our time in Helsingør, we hopped on a train that took us back to Copenhagen directly. So we bypassed the boat this time because at this point we're getting a little bit tired, but we also had a dinner reservation that night, which I'll get to in a little bit. So we wanted to scoot back to Copenhagen and get back to our hotel so that we could get dressed for and get ready for dinner. My friend made us a reservation at the Kong Hans? I can't remember the last name, but I'll be sure to put links in the video description of all of the stops that we went to. And that is a 1-star Michelin restaurant that is sort of known for new Nordic cuisine. We did a tasting menu, which was 5 courses paired with wine. It was unbelievable. We ended up being there for about 5 hours. Michelin, so clearly white tablecloth, wonderful service and experience. Had an amazing conversation. I hadn't seen Jess for a while, and both of us have a lot going on in our lives, personally and professionally. So it was just sort of great to sit, reminisce about the day, catch up on life, and have this fantastic meal together. It was such a special experience, and I'm so happy that I was able to share it with a friend. So that is going to be a memorable evening. I mean, I ate things I never thought I would eat, like lumpfish. I never thought I would eat lumpfish or a whipped oyster or things like that, but it was a fantastic experience, and I will always look back on that with a smile on my face. Even afterwards, we got a little lost walking through the city, and it doesn't even matter at this point. Like, it was great to just be out around 12:30 at night with a full belly after a huge day, on 36 hours of travel and very little sleep, and just to remember how happy I was to be with good company in a new city, feeling very happy and content with life. I don't know how many times I said happy there, but you all get the point. So, but I'm just about sort of coming into the last, I would say, 5 minutes of this creative process segment. And so right now you can see some photos coming in from Helsingør and our walk around the ruins before we headed to that outdoor park area, which was really great. And that picture that I just put down, I don't know if you guys have seen like the couples on Instagram that do, I'll follow you anywhere shots. And before I left, I saw this really funny account where it was a couple of guys who were traveling together were doing the same thing. So we figured we'd take a shot like that in tribute to friends exploring the world and having a very honeymoon-like experience, just in celebration of, being blessed and being able to travel with good friends and create great memories with someone who, not in a romantic marriage way, but I will probably have Jess in my life till death do us part. So it was a good celebration of that. And it was great too, because Jess actually was a friend who visited me while I was going to university in Paris. So she was there on a couple of occasions, which was awesome. And on one occasion, we ended up traveling to Belgium with her mom. We spent some time in Brussels, and it's neat to have sort of a building repertoire of really great experiences with her. And I look forward to the future and more trips that might come our way. And so that was another reason why when I was making my own travel journal to, document this trip and sort of create a little memory book, I wanted to be able to share that with Jess, because these books, it's sort of a way that I can share my creativity with my friends when they have memorable moments like a bachelorette or a wedding or a baby, or we're doing something interesting together as pals. So I had a lot of fun making both books, and I also can't wait to visit her and see what she's done with hers, because she's very kind to let me not only document the trip but also share photos and our experiences with you all. So maybe when I see her book, she'll let me snap a few pictures to share here on Instagram to give you all a little taste of the other book and how that all evolved after the trip. So this is the little church that I was telling you about that Jan took us to, our local guide. I'm just popping into that folder, and this is really starting to sort of wrap up the first, I'm going to call this blurred 2 days of my trip when I was in transit and moving around. You can see when it comes to like a lot of the receipts and stuff like that, I just sort of bundle them. Some people laugh at me for keeping them. But I don't know, I think there's something fun to hang on to that. And when I do a little bit more writing and fill in these pages after I sort of do the final flip through with you, those will be very helpful if I want to remember what I had for lunch or what I might have bought at that specific shop and things like that. So that's sort of why I hang on to everything and stuff it in this book. And I do enjoy sort of pulling things out and remembering. I mean, that big map of the outdoor space we went to was folded up in my pocket for a couple of days. But this is sort of it. This is my first leg. Now that you can see, when this wraps up, I'm actually going to share with you a video of footage from that day. So I'm trying a little something new for you all, where it's pairing. It's not really a vlog because it's literally an iPhoto memory film that I put together on my phone. But I thought it might be fun for you to see the creative documentation and then the video. So enjoy that. It's going to start as soon as all of this wraps up. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I look forward to sharing the next couple of installments with you as I make my way through this book. Have a wonderful day. Like, subscribe, leave a comment if you have any questions. And I hope you have a great day creating wonderful things and maybe even have an inspired trip coming up in your future. Stay tuned for more. Thank you.
See the polar bears, can we feed them? So I just say, yeah, if you meet the polar bears, they're tame, and if I really want to have a good time, then I tell them that you can go in the supermarkets, they have buckets with free fish that you can save them and feed the polar bears.
Hi.